Welcome back. We're going to jump into segment two as we go through this chapter. We're going to talk about Grossman and one of the academics that Dewar uses in our text. Grossman developed an investment model for health, and I think it's human nature that we'd all like to be as healthy as possible and live as long a healthy life as possible. There are some of us, and I think probably a greater percentage of the population than we might like to admit, would definitely like to burn the candle at both ends, and party all night, and drink all night, and drugs and everything that we probably shouldn't do for kind of this instant gratification. And then at the end of the day, when we start to get older and the population needs more health care, they expect to live as long as possible too. And those kind of two approaches are at odds with each other. But I think to some extent, that's the way a lot of individuals view their investment in health. So Grossman has developed, again, this model where he talks about investment of health, and he talks about investment in human capital. And again, when we're talking about human capital, it's more of an economic term that talks about an individual's ability to develop productive skills as they go through life. That's generally how you think about human capital. Typically you think of human capital as education and training, additional, and it's not just educational training. You get a college degree and you got to go to work. It's once you go to work, how much additional information, how much additional expertise or different skill sets maybe that you pick up on in your employment, depending on which market economy you're in. Also, when we talk about human capital, you do focus and include things like health status and work ethic in your human capital, because that all rolls together to make an individual a more productive and more valuable asset or resource to the company for which they work. Grossman compares his investment model to health. It's almost like an investment in a capital good. There are maintenance and repairs to offset depreciation, and he comes up with the concept of the gross investment model. So if you look at capital equipment, so I'll go back to Meharry. So Meharry has some radiology machines that if you hurt your knee, maybe you go in and you get an X-ray or you get MRI or a CAT scan, and those machines are valuable to Meharry as far as capital stock. And the capital stock in those machines, when they're brand new, they start out with a certain level of capital stock. And through routine maintenance and individuals at the hospital using them properly, and Meharry, the medical center, and especially the CEO at Meharry, hopes that those radiology machines will last a long time because they're extremely expensive. So he's going to be diligent on the maintenance piece of it because he wants to offset depreciation. And that's what we're talking about in healthcare too. Again, as I said, we're born with a certain level of health stock or a certain level of health status, depending on which terminology you want to use. And through, seeking, it's through population health and, the lifestyle you live and, and everything that you do as an individual to try to improve that health stock. And then, annual visits to your physician, your, annual checkups. As you get older in years, there's routine maintenance that you need to do, colonoscopy exams, different things as you get older. And what we're trying to do as individuals, or at least in the healthcare community itself, we're trying to minimize depreciation and trying to extend that health status, just like the CEO at Meharry is trying to minimize depreciation to the radiology machines that they have. And Grossman's model differentiates health as an output because it derives utility. The utility is feeling better and having more healthy days and living a longer, healthier life. And medical care is an input in the production of health. Health is demanded, and it's going to be based on, again, if you go back to your econ classes, your micro classes, it's going to be based on could be based on income and wealth and productivity and the utility that you receive from a greater number, or potentially a greater number, of healthy days. And it's produced by the individuals, and it's based on again, diet, lifestyle, exercise, how much medical care you actually receive, and all of that again rolled together under the umbrella of healthcare. And so Grossman says the stock of health depreciates over time, which we've discussed, and it's increased via investments. Again, what you do kind of, with your lifestyle and your diet and your exercise, or if you seek medical care on a routine basis when you're supposed to. So that's increased via these investments in health. And the efficiency of production depends on knowledge and education. And I think that is extremely true in the healthcare environment today, because accessing the healthcare environment today, it can get pretty complicated. You're not only trying to get in to see your doctor, but you've got the health plan to deal with. If you've got a health plan that you're covered by under your the employer that you work for, and so you've got all of that interacting. So it makes it the production is going to depend on your knowledge of when you need to go to see the physician, and need to go to the doctor, and need to go to the emergency room, and when you don't. And it's also based on your education. So the more knowledge you have and the more education you have, in theory, again, we've got a group of economists, thinking, and when, economists think, it gets really dangerous. But you've got a group of economists that talk in theory that the more knowledge you have and the more education you have about healthcare, the higher the probability that you're going to make objective decisions about whether you should seek medical care and how you manage your health status. And then Grossman also talks about healthcare. When he kind of uses healthcare and medical care interchangeably as one input in generating health, the utility received from consuming healthcare, and it's kind of a derived demand, is improved health. It's utility of improved health status, improved health stock, potentially a higher probability of having a greater number of healthy days between the time that you seek the health care, or at least between the time you're born and the time you die. So that's the goal, and that's where your utility is going to come into play. Demand for health care is conditional on the cost of health capital, depreciation of health stock. And it's, it's when he talks about capital goods in the comparison, he's talking about the difference between gross and net investment is depreciation. So then whether it's a capital good, whether you're working for a manufacturing company, whether you're working at Meharry Medical Center, or whether you're just talking about your health status, the difference between gross health status and net health status is depreciation. And the more you can minimize depreciation, the closer the growth and the net will become. And the production of health, diminishing marginal returns, differing levels of health stock at differing levels of cost, marginal efficiency of capital, the demand curve for health in individuals set a level of healthiness, and we're all trying to set that level of healthiness where the marginal benefit is greater than or equal to the marginal cost. So the marginal benefit that you receive through your exercise program is greater than the marginal cost. That marginal cost may be depreciation of the cost of going to the gym, depending on how you want to allocate that marginal cost. As long as, the hassle of going to the gym and, the sore muscles the next morning and the time out of your day that it takes, as long as that marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, you, in theory, in economic theory, you'll continue to do it. And it's the same thing with anything that we do, whether it's on our health stock, whether it's seeking medical care. As long as the benefit of going and seeking that medical care is greater than the marginal cost of going to seek that medical care, then we'll continue to seek medical care. Grossman also talks about the wage rate measures an individual's market efficiency. And, he talks about the opportunity cost of non-market time. So your wage rate, if you think about, again, I keep harping on, go back to your microeconomics classes, you have that kind of weird looking supply curve that kind of, if you talk about, they talk about the difference, the higher the wage rate, you at some point as an individual, as a laborer or somebody in the labor force, at some point the wage rate gets high enough that the offset between working hours and leisure hours, it gives you that really weird looking supply curve where it starts bending backwards. So supply curve is, so you got the price of labor over here, and it just starts going up. And at some point, you as an individual decide, I don't need the money that much. I'd rather have some extra vacation days. Rather than working, 2 jobs, I'd rather just work the 1 job. And so the supply curve starts to bend backwards. And that's what he's talking about on the wage rate in the market efficiency. So you're comparing the opportunity cost of market time versus non-market time. Also, you're starting to look at the stock of health and, the stock of the healthcare market. And there is some kind of, when we're talking about the stock of health, there are market and there are non-market forces. So Grossman gets into some detail in that, and then he jumps into his consumption model, and it's the allocation of budgets. And so everybody's got a budget based on disposable income. If I live in Atlanta, and if you live in Tennessee, and we were making the exact same wage rate, you would more than likely have a higher level of disposable income than I will, because I have to pay state income taxes on mine, and you don't in the state of Tennessee. So you may have a higher level of disposable income, and depending on what your budget looks like, how many dollars of your budget are you going to have to expend on healthcare goods and services as compared to housing, food, clothing, transportation? And that's where Grossman is getting into this, consumption model. And that's going to drive the slope of your budget line. So as a young individual, for the average individual at a younger age, and when I say younger age, I'm thinking more in terms of you're out of college, you've gotten your degree, you're going to work, you go to work for an employer, and your employer provides you some level of healthcare coverage. You're going to pay an out-of-pocket premium in most cases, but younger employees are going to spend fewer of their budget dollars on healthcare than you may as you get older in life. I mean, that's just a fact. You tend to spend. I'm going to spend more on healthcare goods and services than you are, more than likely. And if all other things equal, if we all had the same health status, I would spend, if we all had the same health status, I would tend to spend more on healthcare goods and services because I've got more of a level of depreciation. You've probably got a higher net of health status than I do. And for that fact, I'm going to have to spend more on healthcare goods and services. That's just, unfortunately, it's just a fact of getting older. And healthcare, that's especially medical care, it falls into that diminishing marginal utility. You talk about workplace productivity is impacted by one's health. Level of earnings could be the investment in health does not necessitate a trade-off between health investments and other consumer goods. So as long as you are working to manage and to maximize your health status, and in that case, minimizing depreciation to that health status, you're not going to have to spend, in Grossman's terms, as many dollars on healthcare goods and services as you ordinarily would, and you can take those disposable dollars and do something else with them. Go to the movies, go on vacation, buy a new car, take your friend out to dinner. There's just a lot of things you can use that other disposable income for. And then to kind of wrap up this investment model for health, Grossman focuses on household and production. And he talks about the household's time, how it's spent, using market goods. It derives utility from health and fundamental goods. So any given household, my household, your household, you're going to derive utility based on your budget constraints and based on how many dollars you're having to spend to optimize your health status as compared to other budget type, I'll call them commodities, or other drains on your budget. Drains that include housing, including, as I said before, clothing, food, transportation, entertainment. The less you spend maximizing your healthcare status, the more money you have to spend on other needs. And so health stock plus health investment, that is your gross health. And then once you take out depreciation, that equals, the net of the number of healthy days. So again, we all want to maximize those number of healthy days so we live a longer, healthier life. We're trying to, as consumers, and we're all trying to, maximize utility as consumers. That's just kind of one of the basic tenets of economics. And it's subject to time and expenditure budgets. And unfortunately, unless you're Captain Kirk on the Enterprise or somebody that can do time travel, your time is fixed at 365 and a quarter days a year. So there's not much you can do about your time constraints. You can play around with the 24 hours a day and work more hours a day and sleep fewer hours a day. But, is that going to have an impact on your health status? And then your expenditures are constrained by your income. So that's what Grossman's talking about, subject to the constraints of kind of the time continuum and your expenditure budgets. And that's why that if you're have a higher disposable income for a multitude of reasons, you have more money to allocate across your expenditures, and maybe you're not hardly as constrained on your income. And then he goes into higher expenditures on health as a result of negative shocks to the state of health or ill health. And just stop and think about that for a minute. Negative shocks. And you think, what is that guy talking about, negative shocks? Think about the negative shocks to many individuals' health status in late 2019, 2020, and on into 2021. COVID-19 was what significantly impacting the health status of a lot of individuals, not only in the United States, but across the global market. And so you've got things like, and it definitely is a shock to the system, and it definitely was a drain on the healthcare system, especially the medical care system. And for most of us, it actually increased the level of expenditures that we had to allocate toward either preventing COVID or trying to recover from an episode of COVID-19. And then on top of that, you've got other shocks. You've got, we lived in California for 20 some years. You're always concerned about earthquakes. If you live in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, that kind of what they call Tornado Alley down through there, you've got to worry about tornadoes. If you're in Florida, maybe in the Gulf Coast somewhere, you've got to worry about hurricanes. You've got famine and unemployment, and you've got war. Think about what the war in Ukraine is doing on individuals across the global market. And again, late 2019, most of 2020, and on into 2021, it was kind of a unique situation. It was a double whammy. You had COVID-19, you had a lot of individuals, companies closing, you had a lot of individuals losing their jobs. And as they lost their jobs, they lost their health care coverage. So it was a situation that most of us would like to just forget about. And lastly, on the investment piece from Grossman, we talk about investment decisions are made in a world of uncertainty. The randomness of ill health makes rational health investment strategies dynamic. External shocks offer the state of health over a lifetime, and that is so true. It's a dynamic situation. You don't know what's going to happen. It's, your health status is probably one of the most problematic, and if you want to call it an asset or a commodity or whatever terminology you want to use, it's probably one of the most difficult to estimate, predict, explain, forecast, prescribe. Everything an economist does, it is one of the most difficult concepts to actually forecast. And it is because it is so dynamic. You can live an extremely healthy life. You can do everything you're supposed to, go to the gym, eat a healthy diet, exercise, stay off of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, go do your annual checkups. You're doing everything you could, and you're predicting you're going to have a long, healthy life. And you step off the curb downtown in Atlanta, and you get run over by the bus. I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but there are externalities that are going to impact us all. And that's why it makes this investment model that Grossman has put out and an economist's ability to forecast and function in a healthcare market, it makes it extremely difficult. And with that, we're going to stop for a few minutes on the investment model, and then we'll come back and kind of tie this together and talk for a few minutes about factors affecting health investments. Talk to you in a few minutes.